Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Today, we're going to talk about the C8 and why it's going to be amazing. First, let me start the video by giving a shout out to Mike over at Brink of Speed and Jason at Front Seat Driver. JT from Cars Guys and I just returned from our trip to Texas, and these guys were incredibly hospitable. It was just a blast. I got to drive Jason's Lamborghini Gallardo and had a really eventful time, which of course I'll link in the description down below, as well as on the screen here if you want to check it out. But anyway, let's get into the good stuff. One more piece of information I want to share with you guys before we get into the 5 reasons this car is going to be amazing is a member on the Corvette forum named Nice Ride, who claims to be a supplier for GM, just posted and said that the start of production for this car has been moved to December of 2019. Now, of course, with any of these rumors, you have to take them all with a grain of salt. But if it does start in December, suddenly a lot of things start making sense. There's been a lot of rumors and a lot of talk about a summer 2019 reveal date for this car. And if that ends up being the case, a December start of production makes a lot of sense. Again, like I said, you want to take it with a grain of salt, but there is a very good chance that this car could be actually starting to be built in December of this year. Very exciting times, guys. So the number one reason the C8 is going to blow you away is 2 words: active aero. This is number one because it is the most important part of this car, in my opinion. The biggest thing that sets supercars apart from other cars is this exact kind of stuff: technology and improving the car's handling and power without actually adding horsepower or suspension parts. Active aerodynamics can really help give this car the edge without jamming a huge motor inside of it, which obviously has many benefits, but the most notable is weight savings. One of the fastest cars around the Nürburgring was the Lamborghini Huracan Performante, and the biggest change to that car over the quote-unquote base Huracan was active aero. It really gave that car the edge, just like it would with the C8. As you know from my previous videos, there have been a lot of patents filed from GM for active aero, which will likely see its way into this car. As I make this video, I have actually found another patent filed by GM for a variable width spoiler. This is awesome because the spoiler itself provides amazing downforce, but it also impedes top speed. But that doesn't have to be the case any longer. Instead, the active aero bit can kick in at a certain speed and literally retract that spoiler, or in this case, even reduce the size of it completely to avoid drag. This kind of stuff is mind-blowing and will really put the car over the edge. It is definitely this attention to detail that will allow this car to compete with high-end supercars. Reason number 2 is the mid-engine layout. Of course, by now, everyone knows the C8 is going to be mid-engine. A lot of purists don't agree it should go this way, but I've always been one to believe that in order to stay relevant, you have to evolve. And that's exactly what GM is doing with the C8. As I stated earlier, I had the privilege of driving Jason's Lamborghini Gallardo, and it's only then that you really can truly appreciate the mid-engine placement in these cars. There is no doubt in my mind that the C8 is going to be a game changer, and this is the biggest reason. That mid-engine placement allows for much better handling and in most cases, a lighter weight car. I've heard rumors that the C8 is not going to weigh less than the C7 and that it actually may even weigh more. That would be really surprising to see in person because the mid-engine layout is typically able to achieve a lighter overall weight than most other cars, but of course time will tell for that. The Lamborghini Gallardo's weight starts right around 3,000 pounds even. That is really something else considering this car also has a V10. With the C8 probably being a much smaller displacement V8, the weight should be cut down even further. With that said, there was nothing left out of the interior and no shortcuts to be found in Jason's Lamborghini, so I am sure GM can give us a mid-engine car with the weight around 3,000 pounds, all while not sacrificing anything and not losing any kind of creature comforts or anything on the interior either. Reason number 3, choices, or as I like to say, options. I have said it 100 times on this channel, when we the consumers are offered options or choices with the cars, we all win. GM is usually pretty good with this by offering many trim levels and packages. While this can sometimes get confusing and sometimes be a pain to find the exact car you want, it does give you the freedom to pick and choose and finally get exactly what you want. Right now, there are many rumors suggesting at least 3 different models of this car: a base model, a Grand Touring, and a Grand Sport. This is just the beginning, as I'm sure we'll get at least 2 more models to accompany these ones. But for now, that's the ones we're going to focus on. Obviously, the base model is exactly what it sounds like, likely to be the lightest of all 3 models, and probably won't have things like active aero, Alcantara, and the normal things like GPS or auto-dimming mirrors, stuff like that. The Grand Touring is said to be the middle of the road for the people who want a mid-engine design, but not necessarily the harsher ride, the more performance-oriented tires, or the braking system that goes with the higher-end performance models. It's likely to have more aero than the base, and maybe even some options for some active aero. In a previous video, I discussed the leak of this information talking about the Grand Touring model being compared to a Cadillac as far as ride quality goes. Finally, we'll have the Grand Sport version, which will build off of the Grand Touring model by adding performance suspension, tires, and braking. This sounds to me a lot like the difference between the Stingray and the Z06 of the C7 models, which were overall the same car, but one was built with much more track use in mind. The Grand Sport model is likely to have all of the active aero components, or at least an option for them. Like I said, in the future, we may see even more models released. A Z06 or a ZR1, maybe even more power and even more active aero added to those models. Reason number 4, performance. Like I said earlier, this car is going mid-engine and it's going to open up a world of performance for GM. The 3 models rumored to be coming soon are all going to be performers, I'm sure, but there is a top dog rumored right now which will likely have 1,000 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and be a hybrid of some kind. A mid-engine car with active aero, insane amounts of horsepower, and it will somehow still be at least a little bit fuel efficient? That's just mind-blowing. GM is setting this car up to compete directly with the likes of Lamborghini, McLaren, Ferrari, Porsche, etc. And so far, the horsepower and technology rumors I'm hearing, it's going to do exactly that. GM has always been good at making a car that costs much less than the competition, but matches or exceeds it in performance. There have been a slew of patents filed by GM for this car that indicate they are going balls to the wall with performance on this, and all while seeming to keep an eye on cooling, as well as some other cool technology features like power doors, etc. Not too long ago, they filed a patent that allowed for a clutch-by-wire system that even gives us manual transmission guys some hope that this car may, in fact, get that option as well. Reason number 5, the final reason. The most important reason, in my opinion: cost. There were a lot of rumors in the beginning of this car's inception that it was going to cost $200,000+ to buy this C8. This has all but been debunked at this point, with Bob Lutz saying the C8 is very likely to cost around $5,000 more per equivalent C7 model. This is, of course, fantastic news for us Corvette fans. We're going to be able to own a mid-engine Corvette that is capable of running with supercars for only a little bit more than the C7 cost. The C7 was priced right and isn't exactly a slouch either, and it has been able to keep up with its fair share of higher-end cars. But with the move to mid-engine, this car is literally in supercar territory and will have the performance and tech to prove it. There are rumors that say that the C8 Top Dog will max out at around $165,000, and that makes perfect sense due to the ZR1 maxed out being right around $155,000, $160,000 itself. I don't know about you guys, but this is insanely exciting news. A car with this much performance for basically the same cost as the C7. Now, as I stated in my previous video, it isn't going to be easy to obtain one of these cars, at least not right away. There is likely to be markup and even difficulty finding one initially. The C7 right now is able to be purchased at much less than MSRP, so these figures are not being compared to what you can get a C7 for now. After the hype dies down and this car is able to be obtained at a regular MSRP, it's going to be mind-blowing. One more thing I wanted to touch on, guys, before I let you go, and that is the taillights. We've seen a couple different spy shots and spy videos of the car recently wearing minimal camo, and we got to see some headlights and got to see some taillights that are likely to make it to production. I'm not going to talk a lot about the headlights, that's been covered by a couple other channels already, but one of the things about the taillights that I found interesting was they seem to have sequential turn signals in them. Now, obviously that means they light up individually at different times and in a sequential order. So basically, when you hit your turn signal, it's going to look a lot like some of the Mustangs out there. I've always thought that this was a pretty cool feature and always wondered why more cars didn't do it. There's a lot of cars that do it, but one of the most notable is, of course, the Mustangs. And I can't wait to see it on a C8 Corvette. Now, there was also another video released recently that showed a couple different C8s heading out to what I can only imagine is probably a track or some sort of testing field. And at least 2 of them end up getting on the throttle pretty heavy, and you can hear a good bit of the exhaust on the car. I'm going to play it for you here in a second, but I think it sounds amazing. It sounds, without a doubt, like a V8, and it sounds like a bigger V8. Like, maybe not necessarily the 5.2 that we've been hearing. This could possibly be the base model C8 that has a modified version of the 6.2 liter LT1 in it. Sounds a lot like it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you liked it, give me a big thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, shoot them in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next one.